Hey guys, Mr. V here with another quick tutorial. Today we are talking about our conclusion paragraphs. Alright, so if you look here on the board, I decided this week I didn't want to use the digital green chalkboard. It was acting kind of weird. So we're going to go back to my actual whiteboard here in my room. So if you look, here's kind of the outline that we had looked at the beginning. You got the intro, the body, and the conclusion. So this week, all I'm grading or asking for you to turn in is a conclusion paragraph. So first things off with the conclusion. Here in a second, on the second part of this video, I'm going to teach you how to break down the conclusion so that it is easier to write. But the conclusion, what did you guys remember about the conclusion? What did we say last time? Let's take out a marker here. The conclusion, if you remember, is basically a mirror image of the thesis. And what do I mean by a mirror image? Well, basically it is the thesis, but it's restated. Okay? All it is the thesis restated. You could actually say it's almost the exact same thing as the thesis. So what does that mean? Well, what does the thesis do? The thesis, if you remember, the thesis is to basically state the whole, I don't want to say the topic, but it's to state the whole idea or the whole claim of the essay, or the whole point of the essay, and basically what kind of points you're going to be making. And then the body actually goes into those points. So if you look at the body again right here with A, B, and C paragraphs. Now for this assignment, I only asked you to do one paragraph just because it's, the whole COVID-19 crisis, and it's, I know that I'm an elective class, so I wanted to make it easier on you guys just during this time. But normally for a college paper, you'd have at least 3 body paragraphs. But in these 3 body paragraphs, you can see right here on that last time we did a video about the body, I put with evidence, okay? So basically the body is making the points that prove the thesis. So I've heard it kind of put this way. In a good essay, you tell them what you're going to tell them, then you retell them, and then in the conclusion, you retell them what you just told them, if that makes sense, okay? So basically, if the body is providing evidence for the claim that is made in the thesis, then the conclusion is now the thesis restated, but now with the evidence, okay? So once the reader gets to your conclusion, you've already provided evidence. And what is the main way that we provide evidence? Do you remember? That's right. We use the quote. Okay? We use a quote. We use quotes from sources that could be, like a journal or an online article or a book, something like that, to back up the points that you're making for your thesis, for the whole idea that you're trying to present. So now, once the reader gets to the conclusion, you're just restating everything you stated in the thesis, but now you're saying, but guess what? I've got evidence to back it up. So basically, you just restate the whole idea of your essay, and then a lot of times that's why in a conclusion paragraph, you will see writers say something like, so now that we've seen according to the evidence, blah, blah, blah is true, or blah, blah, blah must be true. So basically, they're just the conclusion is restating the thesis, but now keeping in mind that the reader has been exposed to the points, to the evidence that you've provided. Let's take a look.
Okay, here we are, guys. Now, you know me, Classic V. We've got to start off with a overview of the agenda. So just real quick, I promise. This week's objective, as you know, is writing a conclusion paragraph. So you're going to write your conclusion paragraph, which is Roman numeral 3. If you've all been using the outline that I hope you I hope that you used, that I gave you to help you write your essay. You want to complete essays are not due. Only the third conclusion paragraph added to the first 2 paragraphs. That's what is due by Friday, okay? So don't worry still about doing the whole essay. Now, I understand that basically because some of you guys have been adding to the first two paragraphs in that same document that it will pretty much look like a completed essay. So that's fine. I just want you to realize that the only thing I'm going to be grading is your conclusion paragraph this week. Okay. Next week we will be putting everything together into one essay, and so don't stress out about completing the whole essay for this week. I still want to show you guys how to do the works cited and how to format everything in the template that I gave you. Yeah, that's basically that. Number 2, this week's video lesson, that's what you're watching right now. Number 3 is last week's video lessons. If anyone is behind, definitely go back and watch those tutorials that I created. I noticed that this week I only had I didn't have as many views as I should have had, guys, and that tells me that some of you guys are not even watching the videos. And the videos really help you out, so definitely watch the videos. So here's the intro paragraph tutorial and then the body paragraph tutorial. So if you're still confused or you're behind, go watch those and that will explain everything. Our weekly deadlines, number 4. This week is going to be just a little bit easier. There's only one discussion question due, and that's due Wednesday. And then, of course, due Friday is the conclusion paragraph. All right. And make for sure you go down in the actual assignments to read those instructions that I put in there. And then, of course, you have your resources. I definitely want to remind you guys about this MLA essay template. This has been here from the very beginning, guys. It's always been here. It's since lesson 1. I told you guys about it. Let's go ahead and right-click on there and open up this link in a new tab. So let's take a look at this again. So here's your template, okay? And the reason I gave this to you is because this is all in MLA format. And some of you guys have been turning in work and you've added in, you did your body paragraph, and then the second week you added in your, I'm sorry, I meant to say you did your intro paragraph, and then the second week you added your body paragraph, which is perfect. And this week you're going to be adding in your conclusion paragraph, which is great. That's what you're supposed to do. Now, keep in mind, if you haven't started typing into this template yet, so that it's all double-spaced, 12-point font, blah, 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 everything MLA formatted, that's okay. Just keep in mind that you need to keep track of everything, all of the paragraphs that you've already written, because we will be pasting it into this template next week. And I'm going to be showing you how to do that, and then also how to do your works cited, which is going to be on the last page. So if you haven't been using the template, you've just been turning in stuff, separately, like turning in your paragraphs, just one paragraph at a time without putting it in here, that's fine. I just want you to realize we are going to all go ahead and start using this template next week to finish everything out, okay? But I just want you to, realize that is right there if you need it. If you want to go ahead and start using it, that's fine too. Okay, so here's the main part of the lesson. Just like I was showing you on the whiteboard, here's an example of a conclusion paragraph. And like I said before, guess what? It is just a restated thesis. So to make it easier to write a paragraph, like I've always said before, you want to break stuff down into little bite-sized pieces, okay? The more you break everything down, the easier it's going to be to write, because before you know it, you're just writing 1 or 2 sentences at a time, and it's easier to take it into pieces and to come out with a whole paragraph, okay? So this is what to do this Friday. Let's break this into the three pieces that make up a conclusion, and try to understand how to easier write a conclusion paragraph. So let's read this together. This is an example of a conclusion paragraph. I don't know who wrote this, but they're basically writing about being a web designer. Actually, I made up the scenario. So let's read it together. Getting a job as a web designer is a goal that I would like to accomplish in the next few years. So you can see I kind of made this up to make it like it was a student writing. Finishing school will take me a long way when it comes to meeting this goal. To meet my goal, I will prepare a resume reflecting all the digital media work I've done and search for jobs. According to the study I have mentioned, students who do these things are more likely to get the jobs doing the things they have studied for. My goal may not be easy to achieve, but the things that are worth doing are often not easy. Okay, so let's break this up into the three parts. The first part we have is the restated thesis. That's this part in the yellow, which is basically the conclusion. Let's just read this. The conclusion is actually a mirror of the intro. So remember I told you a while ago in the, paragraph at the very beginning of the essay, which is the thesis, this is just restating the thesis. The only difference is now the reader knows the sources you use to back up your points, which that would be in the body, the paragraphs above this paragraph. All right, so does that kind of make sense to everybody? So right here you can see in the yellow, this student is basically restating the thesis. The essay he or she wrote is about finishing school and becoming a web designer. That's the essay this student wrote about. So here in the green, you can see the second part is summarizing the subpoints. So remember how I said at the beginning that a good conclusion paragraph will point back to the arguments and the quotes and all of the evidence provided in the body. That's what this green part is, okay? So it points to the sources in the body paragraph. You're not going to just rehash the whole thing because that's what you did in the body. But if you notice, the student is just barely brushing over and reminding the reader, hey, I already proved my point in the body. So right here where he or she says, according to the study I have mentioned, this is alluding back to probably a quote that the student gave, or maybe a citation that the student gave of maybe like a journal or a book or like a study that had been done, maybe a case study on web designer jobs. And you can bet, good money that this student has quoted a source somewhere in the body, and that source is also going to appear in the works cited. But you can see here the student is just barely saying, according to the study I have mentioned, he or she is saying, hey, remember, I made those, I gave you proof or evidence of what I'm talking about in the body. And then this last part here is what is called the final impression. That's this part in the pink or the purple, I guess. It leaves the reader with the last thought you want them to have after reading your essay. So right here you can say where the student says, my goals may not be easy to achieve, but the things that are worth doing in life are not easy sometimes, or whatever. That's kind of just wrapping everything up in a nice little bow and ending the essay with a final impression on the reader. So those are kind of the 3 points. And if you notice here on this first part is almost kind of like the intro paragraph. This middle part is kind of like the body. And then this last part is kind of like its own little conclusion. So you can see there's almost a little mini version of the outline within just the conclusion paragraph. So hopefully that'll help you guys to write your conclusion paragraphs. You can see here it doesn't have to be very long. It's just, restating the thesis, summarizing the main points, and giving a final impression to the reader. Okay, guys, if you have any questions, please email me. Be sure to check out those resources I told you about, and we will check you on the flip side. God bless.